Hi everyone, so it's finally the time. The embargo has lifted. I've already mentioned this in my other video a few days ago. I was able to play the early access version of Diablo 4, the full game. So I leveled my rogue up to level 80. I also tried some other various things on other classes. And I have tried a lot of mechanics for the end game. I've tried a lot of builds for the rogue. And I can make a lot of guides now for you guys. So in general, I gotta say, it has been an absolute blast. I had a really good time playing the game, even though I didn't have as much time as I was hoping for. The early access was only around 10 days, and I was very busy with a lot of other stuff. And obviously, I'm gonna be working on a lot more content for you guys in the next few days until launch. So I have planned a bunch of leveling guides, endgame guides, lots of mechanic stuff, lots of just showing off really cool stuff that I found or that I did while I was playing. Also, if you have any request of something you would like to know, something that you want me to cover, then feel free to ask away in the comments, because yeah, I'll be reading them, I'll be checking it out, and I'm gonna be working on videos and guides non-stop until launch. And then obviously gonna be racing for level 100 on hardcore. Overall, I have to say that I'm very happy with how the game has turned out. So I had a blast just playing with my rogue mostly, trying out a lot of things. And also I've been trying out those video crafts that I had been doing, which were pretty much on point, so that was a pretty good sign. I did play a lot of different builds, especially on my rogue here that I got to level 80, and I didn't have any real issue with gold and respeccing costs and all that. I know that a lot of people were very worried that this will be a major issue and you have to make new characters all the time, which is definitely quite untrue. So of course you can't just respec every 5 minutes and do a completely different setup. But if you just want to swap your build around here and there, or adjust a few things because you're experimenting, this is absolutely no issue. So I can tell you as much. I had a lot of leftover gold, especially from all the income that you get from selling items. And I have to say that the amount of options that you have available for each of the classes is actually quite incredible. The build variety seems very good, and there always seem to be some choices you can make with your skill tree and with your paragons, with your legendary items, so you can always fit it to your liking. So this is actually one of the things I like the most about Diablo 4, that you can always just adjust the setup, you can make another choice and play something else. And I already noticed this on my rogue. Even though there's, for example, just 5 core skills, I was able to play a ton of different builds. And they all felt like they had, something special about them. They did have some power behind them. And of course, sometimes a build is better than another build. That's just a matter of balancing. But in general, it felt really good already for a beginning game, I gotta say. And I imagine that once there's going to be more patches, there's going to be a lot more stuff to explore. And a lot of you guys probably know me from the free times. I just like to try out different builds. I like to push them to the maximum. And just with what we get on release already, I think that's going to keep us busy for a long, long time, even if there were no updates. So I'm very excited for that. I also have to say that one of the big strengths of the game that I really enjoy is the combat. I think the combat in general is superb, probably better than any other ARPG I have played. And this kind of holds up and becomes better actually as you progress, because the fights get more intense as you progress, as you grow more familiar with your build, and once you learn more about the game, the fights intensify on the higher world tiers and the higher nightmare dungeons, for example. And it comes down to the back and forth between the monsters and you, and reacting to what they do, trying to maybe maneuver out of dangerous effects or disable them with crowd controls. And I really like this more tactical gameplay, more tactical combat approach that Diablo 4 is doing, and it holds up really well until later. I think this point really comes across, especially on the rogue that I've played a lot, but probably on the other classes too, where you have a lot of different skills to move around, to disable enemies. And it's always this back and forth and adapting to the situation that I really like. It makes the gameplay just feel amazing, feel fluid, and it's not just a boring snooze fest where you just grind away until you find some good loot. Another thing that I really enjoyed while playing is that there was always something to do. So especially on your main character, when you start out, either when the game launches or later in the seasons, one of the main objectives will be to finish the renown. So when you start out, you have to do the campaign, unlock your mount, and then unlock the higher difficulty levels, starting at level 50 with Nightmare and then level 70 Torment. You can do that earlier if you're strong enough. But in general, you want to complete the renown as early as possible. And with this huge open world, you have a lot of different objectives to do, actually. You need to grind quite a lot of renown. And that actually kept me busy for, yeah, I would say a good 20-30 hours or so alone, while I was progressing from like around level 50 or so post-campaign to like level 70, 75 or so once I had pretty much everything done. And after you're done with those objectives, this is the time to really start grinding out those nightmare dungeons and the hell tide to optimize either your gear or your glyphs and finish the path to level 100. And at that point, it's about min-maxing your entire character. So I didn't really reach that point, but already on the way there, I felt that it was pretty fun to find those item upgrades. It was really fun to progress through the paragon boards, upgrade the glyphs, and just kind of like keep building your character as you go. So it is like a very long progression, and even though you stop getting skill points, for example, at level 50, you have more stuff to do, and it's kind of like this long-term progression that opens up later, which always makes you feel like there's actually something to, keep going, something that you want to acquire next. If you're wondering about how long will it take to level 100, well, that depends on the player, of course, and on the build that you're running. I have played this early access version for, I would say, something like 50 hours or so, and then we can maybe deduct something like, 10, 15 hours of like raw, just like testing, basically, where I did nothing. So yeah, I guess something like 30 hours or so is probably realistic to reach like level 80 if you're pretty fast. And then, yeah, maybe like another, 10 hours or so to level 90, and then, who knows, something like 20 hours from there to 100 or so. So that's kind of my expectation for like a solo player, like someone who's really fast, to kind of reach level 100. Most people will probably be somewhere in the 3-digit range though, I believe. I know that another concern that some people might have had was that the game feels a bit slow in the early game, which I agree. And this obviously gets better as you go on. You get more options to speed up your gameplay, you get more attack speed, you get more movement speed, you get more resource generation and resource cost reduction, so you can actually spam your abilities and not constantly run out of energy, for example. And in general, you have more options available to you to make your build and, improve the speed and improve the clear times and all that stuff, as you can see here. Now, Rogue is obviously one of the fastest, or maybe the fastest class in the game, at least according to my experience so far. I think that the only class that kind of comes close to Rogue is Sorg, once you're like fully min-maxed with like 40+% cooldown reduction and like a rank 9 teleport or something like that. Then things can get really crazy there as well. But in general, all of the classes do have some options to actually speed up their gameplay a bit. Or you just simply have items with lots of movement speed or movement speed on kill and these kind of things, so that, yeah, it does feel a lot better. And for now, this is what I have to share here. It's just some general impressions about the game so far. As I mentioned, I have a lot more stuff coming. I'm probably gonna do something like 20 uploads or so until Friday, so stay tuned for those. And again, if you have anything that you want me to cover, then please let me know here in the comments. Hope you liked this one, and I'll see you guys next time.